Have you ever loved someone so deeply that you lost yourself in the process? And then when you finally pulled away, when you were no longer the version of you they once knew, they suddenly started searching for you. This isn't some psychological mind game. It's an ancient phenomenon Carl Jung called projection, the casting of our soul's shadow onto another. And the paradox is this: it's only when you stop trying to be loved that you begin to attract real love. This video isn't for those looking for tricks to get them back. It's a map for those standing at the crossroads of heartbreak and awakening, asking, who am I when I am no longer the one who is loved? Jung called this moment the beginning of the journey of individuation, a return to the true self. We'll explore why the pain of being abandoned isn't the end, but the doorway into the deeper realms of your soul. You'll come to understand why you keep being drawn to the same kind of people over and over, why you lose yourself in love, and why withdrawal is not abandonment, but a return to yourself. Jung once said love does not complete us. Only when we become whole does true love begin. You're about to learn how to recognize projection, those emotional illusions that feel like fate, but are really your soul speaking to itself through someone else. You'll also discover that detachment is not coldness, but a conscious art of living where you are no longer a leaf in the wind, but a still mountain drawing others in by your silence alone. In this video, we'll walk through the layers: the shadow where the fear of abandonment is born, projection where you fall in love, not with them, but with the forgotten parts of yourself reflected in them, and finally individuation, the sacred journey back to your essence, where you no longer wait to be chosen, you choose yourself. In the next section, we'll explore one pivotal question: do you truly love them? Are you in love with the soul fragment you lost and now see mirrored in them? If you've ever ached for a love that never returned, if you've ever walked away in silence but screamed inwardly with no one to hear, stay with me. Because what comes next is the deepest secret of love, what Jung called the mirror of the soul. There is a profound truth few dare to face. The more you try to hold on to someone, the more you push them away. The modern woman raised to be enough, pretty enough, interesting enough, smart enough often carries an invisible map how to keep a man. She learns when to text, when to be silent, how to appear perfect. But no one tells her that these subtle control tactics are exactly what make her lose herself. Control tactics aren't power. They are fear in disguise. Many women believe they're being smart when they know the right moment to respond, when to act indifferent, or when to disappear just long enough to stir worry. But my dear, that performative indifference is not detachment. It's fear of abandonment wearing the mask of calm. And the man, he may not understand the unconscious like Jung, but he feels it. He senses manipulation. He doesn't know why, but something in him begins to resist. Not because you're unattractive, but because you're not authentic. Carl Jung once wrote, "We do not encounter others. We encounter ourselves in them." When you operate from the fear of not being chosen, you're not loving, you're performing. You're not living, you're reacting. True detachment, not disinterest, but a return to your center. There is a kind of woman who enters a room without saying a word and everyone notices. Not because she plays hard to get, not because she's running some game, but because she doesn't need her existence validated by anyone. She doesn't check her phone every 5 minutes. She doesn't text, "I miss you," just to receive it back. She is steady like a mountain, and it's precisely that steadiness that makes her unforgettable. Detachment is not pretending you don't need anyone. It's not disappearing just to be chased. Detachment is the deep presence of someone who knows, I don't belong to anyone's gaze, I belong to myself. Real magnetism doesn't come from doing it right. It comes from the energy you radiate when you no longer need to be validated. Have you ever seen the eyes of a woman who has walked through pain, but is no longer defined by it? That gaze doesn't beg. It doesn't flinch. It sees, it understands, and it stays still. It is the distillation of a journey through dependency, through strategy, through all the times she pretended to be strong, until she no longer had to pretend. She became real. That is the path of individuation, where you are no longer a replica of societal expectations, but a living expression of your soul. If you've ever gone silent after a fight that left no words, if you've ever cried just because they read but didn't reply, if you've ever faked being okay just to avoid being seen as weak, know this: you are not alone. Here in this awakening community walking with Jung, there are many hearts like yours learning to let go without going cold, learning to love without losing self, learning to become the flame rather than search for the light. Leave a comment below: I'm learning to return to myself. And together we'll keep walking one step at a time on this path toward becoming who your soul has always meant for you to be. In the next part, we'll enter the shadow, the part of you you've never dared to face. You'll discover that your need to control, to manipulate, to be seen doesn't come from a place of malice. It comes from a part of you that was once abandoned and has never been fully held. Don't leave just yet. Your deepest, truest, most powerful self is waiting. No one taught you how to face your shadow. They taught you how to look pretty, how to love, how to be chosen. But no one told you that within every woman lives an entire lineage of forgotten faces: the maiden, the mother, the enchantress, the crone. And it's only when you're rejected, abandoned, or unloved that their voices begin to call. The shadow isn't evil, it's simply the part you were never taught to love. Carl Jung once said, "The shadow is anything the ego does not recognize yet exists within us." Have you ever exclaimed, "Why did I act like that? That's not who I want to be"? That moment, that confusion, is the echo of the shadow. She is the 8-year-old girl left behind while her mother was too busy to listen. She is the young woman who buried her artistic dream in the name of being practical. She is the whisper that says, "I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of being chosen." You are not broken. You are simply repeating a wound that was never allowed to heal. The archetypes within, they are not images, but living energies. On the healing journey, a woman will inevitably encounter the archetype she once was or once rejected. The maiden, innocent, tender, dream-filled. Betrayal may twist her into the victim or the self-sacrificer. Are you still afraid to take risks because of old wounds? Have you given yourself away just to be held by someone else? The mother, nurturing, giving, enduring. Distorted, she becomes the controller or the martyr, drained to exhaustion. Have you ever loved so much it suffocated the relationship? The enchantress, free, sensual, wildly creative. When rejected, she becomes the temptress, or is judged as the bad woman. Have you ever hidden your sensuality to appear safe or acceptable? The crone, wise, intuitive, patient. When forgotten, she turns cold, isolated, and unseen. Do you trust your inner knowing, or do you still seek permission to feel, to act, to believe? You might think I'm a modern woman. I don't believe in myths. But archetypes don't live in books. They live in your behaviors and your reactions, especially when you're rejected. Analytical psychology doesn't heal with logic, it heals with symbols. Jung never asked us to get over the past. He invited us to return to face it like a dream we've yet to understand. When you see yourself in the maiden afraid of abandonment, you stop reacting unconsciously. When you recognize the controlling mother within you, don't stop loving you, begin loving differently. And that moment when consciousness touches the unconscious is the beginning of individuation. You don't need a man to feel whole, you need connection to yourself and to other awakening women. In an age of endless online connection, we've never been more isolated. We see reels about love, but few speak of the silent pain behind the eyes of a woman trying to be strong. So leave a comment: "I am listening to the women within me." When you write that, you're not just speaking to me, you're speaking to yourself. And maybe you'll find another woman responds, and connection begins there. We've now seen how control, fear of abandonment, and the longing to be seen aren't flaws. They are responses from the forgotten feminine within. In the next part, we'll explore one of the most powerful Jungian phenomena: projection. Because sometimes you're not truly in love with him, you're in love with a lost piece of yourself that you saw reflected in his eyes. Are you ready to look into that mirror? Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and felt like, You've known them forever. You called it a soulmate, a divine connection, destiny, but Jung called it projection. You don't love them, you love the part of yourself you lost. Carl Jung wrote, all first love is illusion. The other person reflects our own unawakened soul. When you meet a man and feel instantly enchanted, that doesn't mean he's your destiny. It means he's carrying something that belongs to you, something forgotten, abandoned, or never fully lived. You're drawn not to who he truly is, but to your repressed feminine, your buried creativity, or the steady presence you lacked in your father. Why is projection dangerous if it goes unrecognized? When you don't recognize projection, you begin to love the illusion, not the person. And then when the illusion fades, when he no longer fits the image, you feel betrayed, angry, even shattered. You say he's changed, but maybe he was never who you imagined. You say I loved him deeply, but maybe you were loving a soul fragment you once abandoned. This is why so many relationships burn brightly then crash. Because no one truly sees the other, they only see a reflection of themselves. Projection is natural, but it can't be the foundation for real love. You are not to blame for projecting. Projection is a natural psychological mechanism. It helps reveal the unlived parts of yourself. But if you stay stuck in projection, you cannot truly love the other as a separate soul. You love them as a script you wrote, and when they stop playing their role, you're heartbroken. Real love begins where projection ends. Withdrawing projection begins by turning inward. Withdrawing projection is not the death of love. It's the birth of love that is conscious, grounded, and real. How do you begin this? Notice intense emotions without judgment. When someone feels intoxicating, pause. Ask, what forgotten part of me is being touched by this person? Write down what you admire or resent in them. I'm drawn to his confidence. Have I suppressed my own voice? Reclaim those qualities within yourself. How can I build that confidence in me instead of seeking it through him? Practice presence, not expectation. He is not who I imagined, and I accept that. Jung called this process withdrawing projection, pulling your gaze back from the illusion and turning toward the inner light within. If you've ever loved someone fiercely only to realize later you never really knew them, if you've ever blamed a partner for changing, if you've ever broken down when they failed to match your vision, you are not alone. Write in the comments, I am learning to love without projecting myself. That's the first act of the awakened heart, and you'll see you are far from alone in this journey. We've now walked through the shadow from the fear of abandonment to the feminine archetypes to the unconscious theater of projection. In the next part, we'll speak of true love, the kind that arises not from lack, but from fullness. Not as a pursuit, but as two souls walking side by side, not to be loved, but to live deeply. Are you ready? Love isn't about finding someone to complete you. It's about sharing the light you've already kindled within. Carl Jung once said, union is not merging, it is standing side by side. In this part, we'll explore the structure of attachment and how you as a woman on the path of individuation can shift from anxious to secure attachment, from dependency to self-possession, and begin to love from wholeness. Secure versus anxious attachment, the foundation of how you love and are loved. In emotional psychology, your attachment style shapes how you connect, trust, and share in relationships. Anxious attachment, you often fear abandonment, repeatedly ask, do you miss me? Constantly check your phone. You spiral emotionally when they don't reply right away. Secure attachment, you know someone cares, but you're not ruled by their presence or absence. You can say, I need some quiet time. You wait. You trust without falling apart. Many women shift from anxious to secure attachment as individuation pulls them back into the center of themselves. No more clinging, no more fear of being left. You love because you are already enough. A true story. When love made her forget herself, I once met Rachel, a 34-year-old graphic designer in New York. She loved deeply but slowly lost herself. She stopped painting in her free time because he didn't like bright colors. She stopped traveling solo because he said it's better to go together. She gave up her dream of grad school because he told her to be realistic. In the end, Rachel couldn't recognize herself. She no longer knew what she wanted, only that she needed to be chosen. But when he left, she broke. And in that breaking, she picked up her brush again. Stroke by stroke, color by color, she cherished the sound of the bristles on canvas. She said, I haven't seen myself this clearly since the day he left. Rachel went from anxious texting every 30 minutes to secure, knowing she was lovable even in her silence. Depth psychology. How do you shift from anxious to secure? It's not easy, but it's entirely possible. A. Recognize the pattern. Do you check your phone the second it goes silent? Do you stir drama just to feel something? The moment you notice you've placed your soul on hold, you've taken the first step toward change. B. Journal feelings, not assumptions. Instead of writing, he didn't reply because he doesn't care, write, I feel restless when he doesn't text. What does this say about my inner needs? C. Ask yourself, can I give this to myself? If you crave hearing I'm proud of you, ask, can I say that to myself first? When validation becomes your gift to yourself, you stop needing it from someone else. I practice Jungian self-dialogue. Imagine facing your shadow and she says, I'm scared I'm not enough. You respond, you are enough. You've lived. You've felt. You've laughed. Each inner conversation is a step towards secure self-belonging, reclaiming archetypes through secure attachment. As you shift from anxious to secure, your old archetypes return wearing new faces. The anxious maiden once texted 5 times a day to avoid abandonment. Now her creativity anchors her, and she knows silence doesn't define her. The overgiving mother once poured love into him to feel worthy. Now she offers love to herself too, so she gives not out of lack, but out of presence. The silenced enchantress once hid her art out of fear of seeming too much. Now her passion sets her free, and her radiance is magnetic. The rooted crone once feared solitude. Now in her stillness, she becomes ancient and unshakable like a wise old tree. Story from codependency to co-creation. Imagine 2 women. Emily, anxiously attached, constantly asks her boyfriend, are you okay? Do you still love me? And when he's quiet, she panics, banging on the emotional door with questions. Sophia, who's been through individuation, says, you can be quiet today. I'm still okay. He looks at her. No words needed. He knows she has grown. In a secure relationship, both stand whole. Love is no longer begging. It becomes a duet between 2 independent souls. Loving from wholeness. Celebrate every step you're taking. If you're learning too, look at your shadow without judgment. Journal your emotions instead of your expectations. Offer love to yourself before giving it away. Then comment below, I choose to heal by loving myself. Let us witness one another each step as we walk out of the shadow of dependency and into the light of true sovereignty. True union. When 2 souls illuminate each other. In the next part, we'll step into the radiance of real love. When you no longer need someone to define you, but you choose them to share your life. When love is no longer a longing, but a companionship. When 2 hearts don't beg, but burn together like twin flames lighting up the night sky. Are you ready to enter the true light of love? Silence is not absence. It is an energetic field where you say nothing, yet remain fully present. Jung called this holding the tension of opposites between speech and silence, between expression and inner listening. Holding the tension between speaking and not speaking, Carl Jung once said, in the tension between who we are and who we could become lies the creative spark. When you choose silence, you are holding a polarity, reaction, and observation. You don't suppress your anger, you allow it to exist without acting on it in order to understand its root. Silence becomes a creative space where your soul reflects back to itself. Imagine Sarah, 29, who used to react every time her boyfriend snapped. She'd sulk, question, argue. But one night she tried something different. When he grew agitated, she said nothing. No arguing, no defending. Just a deep breath and stillness. He was confused. Why are you quiet? Are you okay? Sarah replied, be silent with me. You'll find yourself in it. A part of him went hollow. He had never faced his own feelings, always using her reactions as a mirror. In that silence, he saw his anger, his loneliness, his fear of being misunderstood. He finally said, I'm scared you'll leave me. He met himself not because she explained everything, but because she listened through silence. Holding the tension of opposites within and between silence is not passive withdrawal. It is not resignation. It is the space between yin and yang, between knowing and the not yet known. In Individuation, Jung speaks of integrating opposites: consciousness, clear active awareness; unconsciousness, shadowed hidden material. You do not reject the shadow. You do not deny the light. You hold both. And in that creative tension, you become whole, unpersuaded, yet open. The benefits of active silence: deepens presence. Silence makes every word count. When you speak, it's a choice, not a reaction. Activates reflection in others. Your non-reaction becomes a mirror. The other must face themselves without you pointing the way. Connects through sovereignty. Your stillness roots you in your own energy. They feel you not as weak, but as grounded and self-contained. Reaction versus silence, a comparison. Emotional reaction, holding the silence. Escalates conflict, opens space for deeper insight. Responds quickly defensively. Waits, listens for truth beneath, often leads to regret. Honors both self and other, feels combative. Feels like a shared awakening. If you've ever talked too much to cover fear or got upset just to feel understood, try one moment of silent awareness. Then journal what you felt. Share below today. I chose silence to understand myself more deeply, not to show perfection, but to witness a first moment of sovereignty. We've now explored the shadow projection attachment styles and the strength of silence. In the next part, we will explore the sacred meeting point of two secure souls, where no one is trying to fix or change the other, but simply walking together as two radiant lights in resonance. You may have heard someone say, "Follow your myth," and felt it had little to do with your real-life work or love. But what is a myth, and why did Carl Jung see it as the design blueprint of the soul? Myth isn't fantasy, it's the inner architecture of your soul. When I say myth in a Jungian sense, I don't mean dragons, protectors, or sword quests. Those are symbols. Your personal myth is an energy map, a deep inner script quietly guiding you whether you realize it or not. Examples. A gifted child actor dreams of standing on a blazing stage. A nature researcher constantly imagines trekking through untouched forests. A nurturing mother sees herself in dreams, knitting warmth for future generations. These are not random fantasies. They are messages from your deep psyche, your myth calling you. Jung called this Mitsehendes Herz, the heart that sees, not illusion, but the inner design awaiting your experience. Why discovering your personal myth matters in individuation? Individuation isn't just healing. It's not just withdrawing projections. It's also about actively living your soul's unique blueprint. When you don't know your myth, you risk doing safe work that leaves you empty, staying in relationships you never truly chose, conforming to social molds that don't fit your soul. But when you find your myth, you live a life not for applause, but because you know I was born for this. Rachel painted again not just to heal, but because her myth was art. Each brushstroke became sacred. How to discover your myth through dreams and active imagination. Record your dreams with reverence. Write them down immediately. Pay attention to symbols, mountains, forests, children, fire, water. Don't judge, just observe. Better use Jung's dream questions. Who am I in this dream? Where am I going and why? What emotion dominates the dream? These reveal what energy is seeking you. C. Active imagination. Sit in stillness. Picture yourself meeting a figure from a dream. Ask it one question. Listen and write what you receive. Example, you sit by a dream lake. A glowing girl rises from the water and says, "I am the light you forgot. I've come to be relit." That is your myth. D. Let your myth guide your real life. If your myth is the free storyteller, don't bury yourself in safe jobs. If your myth is the heart healer, don't trade it for shallow notions of success. Depth psychology myth. As the bridge between personal and collective unconscious, Jung emphasized your personal myth is not isolated. It flows into the collective unconscious, where others too are searching. Tough. When your myth touches the forest, you echo humanity's longing to return to nature. When your myth is fire, you join countless souls seeking light in the dark. Your myth is your essence and your connection to the sacred pulse of humankind. If you've had a dream, symbol, or inner figure that stirred you, share it. I think my myth is the creative storyteller. I see myself writing a story the world needs to hear. When you share your myth, you are no longer alone. You become part of a living community, people actively walking the blueprint of their hearts. We've now explored myth as the soul's blueprint. In the next part, we'll explore how to bring that myth to life. How to turn myth into daily ritual. How to express myth in work relationships language. Practices to help you live your myth starting today. Are you ready to turn your myth into a lived experience? Maybe you've walked this entire journey with me carrying a quiet question in your heart. So, what do I do now? Not do to fix yourself, not to be loved, not to be worthy, but to begin coming home to yourself. We've spoken of individuation not as a lonely retreat from the world, but as a gentle invitation to return to the center of your being. That center is not some mountaintop. It is a quiet room within you, one you may have left closed for too long. And when you finally re-enter that room, you don't need to have all the answers. All you need is a pen and a soft honesty. If you're wondering, where do I start here? Are two small but powerful steps to unlock the door you've long kept shut. 1. Morning conscious journaling. You don't need perfect words, you only need honesty. Each morning write, how do I feel in my heart today? What signals is my body giving me? What do I need but haven't dared to admit? Just 3 lines. But if you do this regularly, you will begin to hear the voice you thought had gone quiet. 2. Track your dreams. Because dreams are the first language of the soul, record them immediately upon waking. Pay attention to symbols, fire, water, journey, strangers. Write down the dominant emotion you felt. Dreams do not speak through logic. They speak through symbol. And the more you listen, the more clearly you will see the blueprint of your soul. You don't need to change your entire life overnight. You only need the courage to pause and listen to the part of you that has been patiently waiting. If you've ever lost yourself in love, if you've ever searched for meaning in someone else's eyes, then maybe today you can do the opposite. Look into your own reflection and ask, today did I live as the person I want to become? If any part of this video felt like you, share it in the comments below. Write one thing you've learned or one small act you'll take to return to yourself. Maybe I'll write 3 lines each morning to reconnect with myself. I'll listen to my dreams and trust that a symbol is calling me home. I once lost myself for love, but now I choose to come back to me. You are not walking alone. And when you share, you light the path for someone else. Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that is the journey you're on. You don't need to chase the light. You only need to ignite it where you stand and let it lead you forward. If this video helped you see a part of yourself, subscribe, not to follow me, but to follow your own journey more fully. Because the light you're seeking is not at the end of the path. It's in the next step you take. Right now,